Now I will tell you 3 funny stories of what happens when clients refuse to negotiate their terms and conditions.
Smart Contracts blog. The bright side of contracting in oil and gas.
I want to say special thanks to Hub Project. Located here in the heart of Mexico City, Hub Project is absolutely unique platform for connection, creation, and innovation. Thank you very much for hosting the filming of this blog with my entire crew. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Smart Contracts blog. And in this episode, I will tell you 3 stories of how clients refuse to negotiate their terms and conditions and what happened next. In the first story, my company was provided training services, tailored training, contractual terms and condition services to the upstream operator based in Dubai. And when the preparation to the training were ongoing, one of the things I always do is I send my standard training services contract to my client. And many of the clients I deal with do accept my terms and conditions because they're very specific to the situation that is going to occur and to the nature of the services, of course. But this specific upstream operator said, we don't have any time to read any contracts of our contractors, suppliers. The training contract is super tiny, super small in light of our other spendings. So Olga, just take our purchase order terms and conditions, review it and accept, and let's forget about it. Your risk is low. And that's what I did. I took terms and conditions for purchase order, I read it, and I found 85% of it, maybe 85.5%, to be irrelevant to what I'm going to provide. The most scary was the warranty clause. I had to provide the quality of the training services for 12 months. And how would I do that after spending 3 days in a classroom and teaching exceptional contractual professionals, contract professionals on terms and conditions? How would I check whether they use that knowledge or whether the quality of the services is still there 12 months later? I don't know until this day. On one hand, the operator got away with insisting on their terms and conditions, but on another hand, the trouble with that showed up in various aspects of my relationship with this client. After the training, the supply chain manager asked me to send him the materials of the course, which I would absolutely be happy to do if I'd had a comprehensive confidentiality clause in the contract. But the terms and conditions of the operator for purchasing of items that I had to agree to did not contain any confidentiality clause. The confidentiality had to be provided by the supplier to this operator, but not vice versa. So I did not provide the entire material. I had to cut certain parts off before sending it to the team that I just trained. And that is a very sad circumstance. One other thing that happened with this specific contract is that when I provide 3 days of the tailored course, there will be a series of follow-ups, follow-up master classes, let's say, follow-up lecturing, to Q&A sessions with the class that I trained. Well, purchase order format plus terms and conditions, which I had to agree to again, did not allow the parties, neither myself nor HR department, who was like a contract holder for this contract, to really cover everything that I was doing, I was selling, I was paid for by this client. If the HR professional who was end usering this whole experience would be on vacation or would have left the company and I, let's say as a supplier, would not be willing to follow up on my own obligations, the company would not have any way to find out what's the real scope of this training contract, what they actually have paid for. And the third aspect here of funny, not funny story is that I was dealing with contract professionals, and of course my training talks about the importance of tailoring the terms and conditions and any template to a specific services, to a nature of specific services that are being procured. And it would be Not very difficult, I'd say, to create a template for the training services, but very often upstream operators, which I salute them for that, do follow for minor contracts, for minor amounts, and for low-risk contracts like a training contract, they do follow the form of the training provider, and very often of the consultants for office-based work, again, for a very low-risk services. And that are the two options that upstream operator or any client in upstream and any other industry, by the way, can choose, whether create a template for the training services with their own requirements, but very, very tailored to the training services, or the other option is to follow the terms and conditions of the training provider. The second story that I want to tell you about is outside of the upstream industry. I have a friend who is a business owner and who asked me to participate in negotiations and review and negotiations of the contract for manufacturing of the uniforms for one of the largest, I'd say, hotels, new hotels at the time in the Middle East. The hotel was being built in Abu Dhabi, and by the time the commencement, the launch, the opening day was approaching, they chose this specific Abu Dhabi-based uniform manufacturer, tailoring company, to provide them with 800 uniforms. I reviewed terms and conditions provided by the client, and surely enough, the terms and conditions were not specific and were not really tailored to cover the uniform provision in manufacturing. One of the big things was that this client refused to negotiate, so they were insisting on their terms and conditions, which were good for buying furniture, for buying paper, for buying water, for buying things, off-shelf things, but were not good for the uniforms. One aspect here, super important aspect, is how the uniforms were provided. They were provided in batches, and each batch could have been improved should there be a provision in the terms and conditions. Each batch could have been improved in terms of material, in terms of the stitching, in terms of the sizes, in terms of everything. And that's what clients' terms and conditions for one off-shelf purchase did not allow to do. Another thing that is really important is that the warranty that the manufacturer was provided was lifetime for stitching, but they could not provide the warranty for the material itself, because the material itself, the duration and the length of service of the material itself would depend on how these uniforms get washed, get maintained, what kind of maintenance is done on the services. However, the stitching is a lifetime. So if the uniform would be there and the stitch would for 3-4 years and the stitch wouldn't work, or it would be broken stitches, the purchaser of those uniforms could have returned them in 4, 5, 10 years. However, the terms and conditions that they gave us only allowed for the warranty for 12 months. And that the warranty was ultimate, as the warranty for the material, for the workmanship, and for stitching, I assume, as well. So the warranty clause was not good at all for what they were getting. On one side, they were telling us with that warranty that we have to do something impossible, which is warranty the material. On another side, they were not getting what they were supposed to get, and that is the lifetime warranty for the stitching. It took us a while to convince this client to be cooperative with us. We had to present all of those benefits that they were missing, and ultimately we created a list of special conditions which was signed together with terms and conditions for purchasing, where in special terms and conditions we said that those special terms and conditions will prevail in case of conflict. How complex and difficult this entire structure is, where in reality the freedom of procurement professional, the power, the knowledge of procurement professional could have changed the entire process and could have saved us a lot of time, where we would just take the terms and conditions of the purchase order, change it, to cater for the uniforms, and be done with it. The third story is a national oil company, the huge national company, absolutely gigantic, that is located in the Middle East. that insists on their force majeure clause. And their force majeure clause, funny enough, does not contain the word pandemics in it. The word epidemics is there, but the word pandemics is not. However, pandemics is the reality in which we all live for the last almost 2 years. It takes a while to get to negotiate with this client, and more often than not, this specific company says no to any changes in their contracts. However, why I'm bringing up the force majeure clause and the word pandemics, the contract was created or drafted as a template a while ago, and it obliges the service provider to physically bring certain deliverables and to physically visit the offices of the client where the client says so. However, it may not be possible, and the way that the service provider, and I was negotiating on the service provider side, and in this case it's a absolutely huge consulting and audit firm, so they have equal bargaining power. And in this case, we were asking to include the word pandemics into a force majeure clause to be able at least to bring up the force majeure event and to rely on this clause in case we cannot fulfill the obligation that is in the contract to physically bring the deliverables and to physically attend the offices of this client. And by not negotiate and by refusing to even talk to us about these things, we basically were locking ourselves, both the client and the audit firm, in the circumstance where we signed the contract that it has 99%, that one of the parties, or in this case like ourselves, has 99% chance of failing this specific provision. Again, why would you do that? If we would negotiate, and we would negotiate with the view of partnering up for this specific contract, for this specific scope, we would either include pandemics as the exclusive circumstance where the audit firm doesn't have to visit the offices of this company in the different emirate physically, or we would just delete the physical obligation of the physical visits and again just be done with it. I hope you enjoyed these 3 funny and not so funny stories, and if you have any more circumstances like that where you feel those stories can empower other contract professionals in upstream and in other industries, leave them in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next episodes of the Smart Contracts blog. Thank you.